चुके हैं दूसरा दशक।
Quite a people from my organizations have also joined. I've seen that. I think dhire probably they'll join.
Yeah. Within 15 minutes, I think you have a lot. Now webinars have become quite common, and they were almost unheard of 2 years ago.
Alaknanda, you're on mute.
Yeah, we are all adjusting to the new normal, and that's what we are here to talk about. Everyone is adjusting to technology, and technology interfacing our lives many different ways now.
Alak, we can start now.
Good afternoon. I'm so glad here to welcome all of you to the 5th session in the webinar series, Rethinking Education in a Post-Pandemic World, hosted by ADOLESCENT South Asia. Today, in this session titled Adolescent Education, Strategic Pathways Between School and Work, we are meeting to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on this adolescent age group and looking at the different ways that civil society has adapted itself to face new challenges. What has been the impact of this pandemic and the lockdowns? Will the new education policy bring in better linkages between higher education qualifications and skilling? To discuss this and more, I welcome our 4 panelists who represent the spectrum of civil society, working with adolescents in rural villages as well as urban locations, working with dropout children from 11 years onwards to youth who have completed their education and still looking for gainful employment. I welcome Mr. Suresh Reddy, Lead CSR and Director, SRF Foundation. Mr. Reddy is a specialist in building multi-stakeholder partnerships for education. As a CSR leader, he has honed his skills in the entire project cycle management and building institutions. He brings more than 24 years of experience in philanthropy, social change, and non-profit leadership. Mr. Suresh is also a prolific writer and has authored various books such as Cooperatives and Rural Development and Child Labor in India, and has many research papers to his credit. We have with us Mr. Gaurav Arora, Vice President at Salaam Bombay Foundation. He has more than 16 years of experience in corporate and development sectors and has been associated with the social innovation system since the inception of India's national mission in 2009. He innovated skill in a bag model at SBF, Salaam Bombay Foundation, for easy training of underprivileged students and made vocational skilling to reach all beneficiaries. Mr. Gaurav is also a visiting faculty at Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, teaching corporate social responsibility and marketing management. He joins us today to share the work of Salaam Bombay Foundation in the urban areas of Mumbai and how it is addressing the challenges facing urban adolescents. We have with us Dr. Rita Mishra, founder and managing trustee, Patang. Rita has been working in the development sector for the last 25 years in the field of youth volunteering, life skills education, and youth development. Over the years, she has designed many youth development programs and developed life skills curriculums for adolescents, young people, and parents for many organizations. Her recent campaign, Bano Nayi Soch, on gender equality and violence against women, covering 5 states, helped to change the social practices that discriminate against women and lead to violence against women and girls. She is a member of NAOP, National Association for Psychology, and she's also a visiting faculty at NIPSID, New Delhi. We have with us Mr. Abhimanyu Singh, Chairman, Foundation for Education and Development. Mr. Singh, an ex-IS officer who has worked for a decade at the Ministry of MHRD in the Department of Education, first as Director of Higher Education and then as Joint Secretary Elementary Education. He has represented India on the Board of Governors at the Commonwealth of Learning at Vancouver, with several years working on education at the MHRD at UNESCO. He has also been a part of the drafting committee of SARC Framework for Education 2030. Mr. Abhimanyu is joining us today as the chair for FED, which is implementing the Doosra Dashak project, one of the largest and most successful initiatives for education of adolescents in India. So we are here to understand how organizations coped with this unprecedented challenge. It's 2022, and from March 2020, when we saw COVID arrive and change our lives and lockdowns happened, it became a new situation which was constantly evolving, and now we are almost getting used to the new normal. How does this new normal look from your perspective? What has been your experience in dealing with the COVID-19 crisis? I would like to begin. If I may begin with Mr. Singh.
Yes, thank you, Alaknanda. I hope you can hear me and also
Yes.
see me a bit. I'm on my mobile phone because my computer got temporarily misplaced. Thank you for having me here and inviting me to speak on the experiences of Doosra Dashak particularly, and also drawing upon my experiences elsewhere. And as you mentioned, and we agreed, I will mix Hindi and English in my presentation,
Yes,
because I think we have that kind of audience. तो मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा कि मार्च 2020 में पूरी दुनिया उलट पुलट हो गई कोविड के आने पे, और दूसरा दशक में भी हमने पहले 7-10 दिन तक हमें समझ में नहीं आया कि क्या हो रहा है, कैसे इस इमरजेंसी को हम का सामना करें। लेकिन थोड़े ही दिन में माइग्रेशन शुरू हो गया, जिसके बारे में बहुत कुछ लिखा गया, पढ़ा गया। Perhaps one of the biggest migrations in human history after partition of India, और इसकी तस्वीरें और इसका अनुभव हमारे जहन में अभी भी और हमेशा के लिए रहेगा। तो उस समय हमें अपनी जो गतिविधियां हैं और कार्रवाई हम जो करते हैं वो सब रोकनी पड़ी एकदम ओवरनाइट, जैसा कहते हैं, गवर्नमेंट एडवाइजरी के आधार पर और समुदाय की जरूरतों के आधार पर। तो हम क्या करते हैं, दूसरा दशक 2001 में स्थापित हुआ था। हमारे यहाँ बहुत मशहूर एजुकेशनिस्ट अनिल बोडिया थे, वो फाउंडर थे, और इसमें 3-4 एमिनेंट एजुकेशनिस्ट भी थे, जिसमें डॉक्टर गोविंदा भी वाइस चांसलर यूपा रह चुके हैं, और डॉक्टर आनंद लक्ष्मी थी, और डॉक्टर जलालुद्दीन। तो इन्होंने एडोलेसेंट एजुकेशन उस समय किसी रेडार स्क्रीन पे नहीं था गवर्नमेंट के, एलिमेंट्री एजुकेशन था। तो इन्होंने एक प्रोग्राम बनाया दूसरा दशक को 11 से 20 वर्ष के युवा युवतियों के लिए, जिसमें एजुकेशन वाज द प्राइमरी मोटिव, बट एम्पावरमेंट एंड सोशल चेंज थ्रू एजुकेशन वाज द लार्जर ऑब्जेक्टिव। तो ये अब चल रहा है 15-20 साल से, और टाटा ट्रस्ट हमारा मेन फाइनेंसियर रहा है। इसमें जो 9 ब्लॉक्स हैं हमारे, कम्युनिटी डेवलपमेंट ब्लॉक्स जिसे कहते हैं, और 7 जिलों में है ये, वहाँ पर चल रहा है। ये सभी बहुत ही पिछड़े इलाके हैं हर दृष्टि से, आर्थिक, सामाजिक, सांस्कृतिक, डेमोग्राफिकली, किसी भी तरह से रहें। और हमारा टारगेट जो है सबसे मार्जिनलाइज्ड पॉपुलेशन, और हमारे जितने भी प्रोग्राम हैं उसमें आप 90% से ज़्यादा शेड्यूल्ड कास्ट, शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब, एथनिक एंड अदर माइनॉरिटीज़ की उपस्थिति देखेंगे। तो ये प्रोग्राम जो है वो शिक्षा की व्यवस्था के अंदर भी है और थोड़ा बाहर भी है। मेन स्ट्रीम में नहीं है, क्योंकि न तो हम सरकार से फंडिंग लेते हैं, न हम सरकारी संस्थाओं में काम करते हैं, लेकिन हम सरकारी संस्थाओं के साथ काम करते हैं ग्रामीण स्तर पर। और सबसे बड़ा इसका जो आधार है वो कम्युनिटी है। तो जो भी हम करते हैं वो कम्युनिटी अप्रूवल, कम्युनिटी वैलिडेशन से करते हैं। तो काफ़ी एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन के बाद ये शुरू हुआ है। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि एकदम कोई नए आइडियाज़ से शुरू हुआ हो, लेकिन आपने शिक्षाकर्मी प्रोग्राम चला था राजस्थान में फॉर अपॉइंटिंग लोकल टीचर्स, स्थानीय शिक्षक जो एब्सेंटी टीचर्स की जगह लेते थे। फिर लोक जुम्बिश चला था जो कि एक कम्युनिटी मूवमेंट था, और महिला समाख्या। तो ये 3 प्रोग्राम के आधार पर दूसरा दशक इमर्ज और इवॉल्व किया है। तो उनका मेन हमारा इंटरवेंशन है कैंप्स फॉर गर्ल्स फॉर 4 months and camp for boys also for 4 months, residential camps. And these camps are held for 120 days continuously. और ये उनके लिए हैं जो एडोलसेंट्स 11 साल की उम्र तक शिक्षा से महरूम रहे, शिक्षा से बाहर रहे या शिक्षा से वंचित रहे। और ये हम सोचते हैं कि रूट ऑफ मार्जिनलाइजेशन है हमारी सोसाइटी में, टू बी डिप्राइव्ड ऑफ एजुकेशन। तो इस रूट को हम एड्रेस करते हैं कि किस तरह से लोगों को शिक्षा दी जाए। तो ये लोग ये वो बच्चे हैं या ये वो एडोलसेंट्स हैं जो किसी ना किसी कारण से फॉर्मल स्कूलिंग में जाने में कामयाब नहीं है या काबिल नहीं। वो 4 months एक कंडेंस्ड रेजिडेंशियल कोर्स होता है जिसमें एक्सेलरेटेड लर्निंग होती है, टीचर्स वहीं रहते हैं कैंपस में, कैंपस समुदाय द्वारा किराए पे लिया जाता है, फ्री बोर्ड एंड लॉजिंग होता है और 4 महीने के इंटेंसिव इमर्शन कोर्स के बाद using a lot of participative pedagogy, peer learning, group learning, learning in the same language as people speak at home, culturally appropriate, सारी चीजें मिला के और नॉन डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी एटमॉस्फेयर है, ऊंच नीच नहीं है, गरीबी अमीरी का कोई वो नहीं है, ज्यादातर तो गरीबी होते हैं लोग। ये 4 महीने में प्राइमरी स्कूल कई बार पार कर लेते हैं और फिर मेन स्ट्रीम जिसे हम कहते हैं स्कूलों में वापस चले जाते हैं अगर छोड़ दिया हो या पहली बार जाते हैं। और ये काफी सफल रहा है मेरे ख्याल में। हमने करीब 1000 गांवों में करीब 1 लाख लोगों को डायरेक्टली या इनडायरेक्टली प्रभावित किया होगा इससे। तो ये मेन इंस्ट्रूमेंट कैंप्स का था। और इसके बाद इक्वेलो है एक लर्निंग सेंटर विच ऑपरेट्स मोस्टली ड्यूरिंग द डे बट इट इज ओपन फ्लेक्सिबल and supports the learning of those who have been in the camps, because obviously 4 months learning is not enough. Sometimes they regress, sometimes they leave, sometimes they cannot attend. And if they are girls, they face multiple obstacles in continuing education beyond the camp. But one of the great achievements is to able to convince the community, the poorest communities and their parents, to send these girls to camp. And they are very safe, very secure, very healthy. और हमारे camps के दौरान कई जगह हम हीमोग्लोबिन भी लेते हैं, उनका वेट भी लेते हैं शुरू में, और 4 महीने में हमने देखा है लड़कियों का वेट जो है 5 से लेके 8 किलो तक बढ़ जाता है। सो ऑल एस्पेक्ट्स आर टेकन केयर ऑफ, फूड एंड न्यूट्रिशन स्पेशली। तो और उसके बाद हमने महिला समूह बना रखे हैं, युवा मंच बना रखे हैं जो हमारा समर्थन करते हैं। हमारा जो एलुमनाई है इसमें रहता है। और सोशल चेंज के बारे में कम्युनिटी में हमेशा बातचीत होती है, वार्ता होती है, संवाद होता है। और जो भी मुद्दे हैं जैसे कोविड को ही ले लीजिए, उसमें हमारा हमेशा योगदान रहता है सरकार को और समुदाय दोनों के बीच में रहकर मदद करने का। तो जब मार्च 2020 में ही हुआ तो ये सारी गतिविधियां बंद हो गई एकदम। और सबसे ज्यादा मांग हुई कि किस तरह से हम लोग जो माइग्रेशन होके आ रहे हैं उनको किस तरह से एडजस्ट करवाएं। तो उसमें हमने कैंप्स में मदद की, जो क्वारंटीन कैंप्स थे, और खाने पीने में की, कई जगह पानी, ड्रिंकिंग वाटर भी हमने प्रोवाइड किया, स्लीपर्स किए, लड़कियों को सैनिटेशन पैड्स किए। ये सब वहाँ स्थानीय रूप से जो मांग थी ऊपर के आ रही थी, मास्क वगैरह। तो जो जरूरत है कम्युनिटी की उसको हम अगर पूरा करें वक्त समय रहते, तो हम सोचते हैं कि उनको फिर हम शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य, लाइवलीहुड्स वगैरह दूसरे मुद्दों पे काम करवा उनके साथ काम करने में सक्षम रहते हैं। अगर उनकी कोई जरूरत और है और हम शिक्षा की बात करें तो वो बात जमती नहीं। We have to be in tune with the surroundings, the needs and demands of the community. तो जब दोनों waves hit की, दोनों बार हमने अपना सारा काम छोड़ के supply of food, rations, survival kits specially made, for which we raised more than 1 crore rupees of fund, and also like help from Barefoot College Telonia, the famous NGO near Ajmer, which provided ration kits. So first thing was let us tackle hunger and extreme hunger. And after doing that, we got involved in the vaccination. So we believe that if you are not properly fed and if you are undernourished and if you are not protected from COVID through masks and particularly vaccination and other means, then the question of your returning to a regular education is very low. But in between, we have, and we can talk in detail later if necessary, we have allowed educational innovation to start, because as you know, schools start one day and stop. You have stop, start, stop, start. There's a lot of uncertainty and people don't know what exactly to do. Government, of course, has done what it can do, but its focus has been on bringing the school system to some kind of normalcy, one might say, but that has been disrupted again and again. And a lot of the attention has been on private schools, about their fees, about payment of teachers, dealing with litigation, of course, online learning. So our approach has been that whatever government offers, you take advantage of that. That has not been too much, but at least there is an assurance that school will open. So we're supporting the teachers and schools as far as possible. But outside the school, I think the responsibility is greater. Because people have been living constricted lives, very lonely lives, depressed, living in uncertainty, fear, particularly girls. They are under immense pressure within the household to get married early because they are out of school. जैसे हमारी प्रोजेक्ट डायरेक्टर हैं सुनीता जी, वो कहते हैं कि जो महिलाएं में घर में रहते पहले अकेली रहती थी, लोग बाहर जाते थे पुरुष, अब सारे के सारे पुरुष भी हैं, वो भी हैं, तो सारा काम जो है हाउस होल्ड का वो बहुत बढ़ गया. और उस एटमॉस्फेयर में जो यंग एडोलेसेंट गर्ल्स हैं उनकी नजर जाती है कि ये यहाँ बैठी बैठी क्या कर रही हैं, इनकी शादी कर दी जाए, डाउरी भी कम देनी पड़ेगी, और फिर शादी के बाद ऑब्वियसली there will be early pregnancies and so on. So the situation has been quite desperate, but we are working with households now. We are working with households face to face where it is possible through neighborhood schools initiated by adolescents in class 10 and 12. जिन्हें छोटे मास्टर कहते हैं, ऐसे 40 छोटे मास्टर ने बाप ब्लॉक में, हमारे लाल जी होंगे वो भी बीच में जोड़ सकते हैं, 40 छोटे मास्टर ने अब छोटे उनसे छोटे लड़के लड़कियों को इकट्ठा करके उनको टीचिंग लर्निंग मटेरियल देके, जहाँ संभव हो टैबलेट देके उनको पढ़ाते हैं अपने जो कन्वीनियंट टाइम में. सो फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी इज द की. आप कहते हैं कि अब फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, ओपननेस टू इनोवेशन and all kinds of experiments to just stay in touch with families and try and we have WhatsApp groups, also mobile phone groups, क्योंकि कई जगह स्मार्टफोन नहीं है. एक इंटरेक्शन और डायलॉग जिसमें सोशल काउंसलिंग, साइकोलॉजिकल सपोर्ट, livelihood advice, all about puberty, whatever is needed by the community is done, and as far as possible reintroduction, reconnection with the education. जो बिल्कुल संपर्क टूट गया. तो हमारी एक वर्क कहती थी कि साहब कैसे पढ़ाएं, कैसे पढ़ें, ये भी भूल गए वो, क्योंकि ये आप देखेंगे हमारी लाइव्स में भी और लिटरेसी में भी कि the regress is faster than the progress. You forget very quickly if you are not in touch with learners and with teachers and with teaching learning material. तो इनके घरों में तो कुछ है ही नहीं माहौल ही पढ़ने का, इसलिए हम लोग इनसे हमने संपर्क नहीं जोड़ा. चाहे कैंप की लड़कियां हो, चाहे वो हमारे इक्वेलो लर्निंग सेंटर्स की लड़कियां हो, चाहे वो स्कूल के बच्चे हो, इनसे संपर्क बनाए रखा दिन रात. और जब भी उनकी जरूरत थी हमने उनको समर्थन दिया है. एक उदाहरण हमारे वहाँ से है, बाप से, जहाँ एक हमारे वर्कर ने कहा कि एक लड़की कहती है मुझे पढ़ना तो है लेकिन मोबाइल पर चार्ज नहीं होता, मेरे फादर केवल काम से 11 बजे रात को आते हैं, तो क्या आप 11 और 12 बजे पढ़ा सकते हैं? 11 और 12 बजे के बीच. तो हमारे लोग हमेशा कहते हैं हाँ कर सकते हैं. ऐसा किया. तो जो फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, एडेप्टेबिलिटी और रिस्पॉन्सिवनेस है वो जबरदस्त होनी पड़ेगी अगर हमें करना है, क्योंकि स्कूल्स जो हैं वहाँ लड़के जाएंगे, लड़कियां भी जाएंगी, लेकिन वो स्कूल नहीं होंगे जो पहले थे. फिजिकली, साइकोलॉजिकली, सोशली they will be unstable. Right. So this is just a kind of headline right. Stuff, as I say. Yeah. We can come to some of these issues.
How has been the experience, Mr. Reddy, when we are talking about adolescents? How has the organization adapted to the new challenges?
Yeah. Thank you, Alkananda. And to add to what Mr. Abhimanyu mentioned about the efforts being made at different places, SRF Foundation being based here in Gurgaon, and who primarily we are working in a couple of areas. One is that the school education and the vocational skills. These are the two the themes we work intensively. So spread across 24 locations in 12 states. And while we are carrying our mandate, it is a mandate of our own the parental company SRF, and also we build the collaborations with the like-minded agencies, also execute their programs as well. So it's like SRF plus another 10 different partners support. So as a foundation, we do these programs of education and skilling for the school children and the youth. When come to the COVID, this is before 2020 March. So nobody was fully aware of the COVID, and nobody was expected that it is going to happen this much of severity we can talk about, and also this much long time it has been there kind of thing. So before that COVID, we used to do work with intensive with the government schools, and also run specific vocational skills centers for the youth. So these both can happen in the same geographical locations where the education program is there. In the same location, we also have the vocational skills for the unemployed youth. So when things are happening in more in physical mode, and we also give the more priority focus to the how to transform the educational process, using the digital platforms. This is also a core initiative from SRF Foundation even before the COVID pandemic. But what happened when COVID arrived, and in India, suddenly the entire system was locked down, and everything was stopped, and the schools were closed, children were confined to the home, and learning was totally missing, for the children. So how to reach the children? That was the biggest challenge, initially, a couple of months we tried, and then discovered that whatever form we can able to reach, it is better to reach them. Identified that we mapped out the children who are having the smartphones of their parents, because primarily we work with the government schools. So in that context, when we mapped these things, only 15% of the children were having the access to the smartphones of their parents. Remaining 85% are not having any access. This is the one thing we discovered that, and out of this 15% also, that will be mostly the adolescent and higher sections of the students. They may have similar access the phone compared to the younger children of the primary sections and middle schools and kind of thing. So what we did it is a kind of the WhatsApp based kind of programs. So we have created the location specific groups, and started sharing the learning content, which is what we created earlier and what is available on the online, and also engaging the teachers to reaching the children through WhatsApp. There is one thing we did it. Apart from that, Mohalla schools, what we talk about, is called street schools, which are close to the homes of the children in absence of the regular schools. That is also second thing we did it. And the third thing we talk about, the one COVID has given the opportunity for us, the positivity kind of thing. So when we are thinking of how to reach the teachers and the children, we found that especially the parental level, going beyond the boundaries of the physical boundaries, so the technology platform gave us an opportunity to reach the children, the teachers at parental level beyond our program areas. Especially we are working with the Niti Aayog, the government of India, an Atal Tinkering Lab program. We nurture the children who are using these Atal Tinkering Labs in the schools, So they are the people spread across the parental level. The program is parental program. So when during COVID situation, we try to reach them on virtual platform. People are connected from the different nook and corners of the country. So across all from 29 states and union territories, they are spread across. So otherwise, before COVID, we are not aware of these possibilities and kind of thing. We have never experienced this kind of thing. So one positivity things what we got is that reaching the children at parental level beyond physical boundaries. That is one thing we experienced. Second thing, the teachers, the same similar with the higher education students, the teachers also, the mobile penetration of the teachers are almost all 90-95% is there compared to the children 15%. So how to reach the teachers and training the teachers and how to engage them in the learning process of the children with whom they are interacting. So training of the teachers also one thing we did it. Apart from this, so as an SRF Foundation, we rolled out the mobile digital buses. We have 11 digital buses spread across 11 locations. These mobile digital buses we rolled out in collaboration with HP, that is called HP World on Wheels. Second thing is with the Indigo, it is called Indigo Get Smart. So these 11 buses, 11 locations, where it goes to village where the programs are operational, and it gave an opportunity for the people at their doorstep, and they make use this platform, both the youth and the children in the school, those who are the higher classes, so they can use these mobile digital buses and access the content which is already loaded in the system. So that is one thing. Second thing is also for the youth, we train the youth on the basic computer skills, especially on the MS Office, and certifying them. And these are the employment opportunities it creates for them in nearby local towns and the cities where the front end office and those requirements, a lot of people kind of thing. So, and also as a digitally they are empowered how to use digital platform. This is the where we covered both the youth and the children at higher classes by using the mobile digital buses. Apart from this, we also we did one thing called training the especially the high school children class 6 to class 9, going beyond the school curriculum and making them ready for the future down the line, next 5 years and 10 years, how they can equip with the future skills. When I say future skills, how they can know familiar with the coding, how they can use the Raspberry Pi or Arduino, how they can develop the app development, how they can do the design thinking process they can follow. So on these future skills, we also train the children and the educators in the school by using digital platform, making them ready for the future at the school level, going beyond the regular school subjects of math, science, physics, chemistry, like that, going beyond that. This is also one thing we did it. So now, if you see that in last 2 years of time, now in the month of January, this COVID started at the end of the March 2020, is almost all the 2 years phenomena. In 2 years phenomena, we have saw the first wave, second wave, the third wave is there kind of thing. Except the few months, the schools are reopened. That is in the months of October to December last year. The 3 months the schools are opened, and the thought of that situation will be normal. Now again the third COVID came, again schools were shut many parts of the country. But some parts of the country, at least higher schools are opened, but mostly the schools were closed. So in this process of almost all, if you see 750 days of approximately the 2 years of time, 500 days of schools totally closed till last year September, beginning of 2020. So the children lost the education of 500 days. It is not a very small thing. And schools reopened for 3 months, again not locked down. So it is cumulatively you can talk about 600 days of the school children lost in the process of learning. So how to address this gap? So what is the thing what we are doing that, following the hybrid model? When I say hybrid model, so we follow the traditional method when the school reopens, and also when the schools close, the mohalla schools kind of thing, and community libraries, these are the things we do at community level. But at the same time, we are giving the big focus to the digital-based education, and it is seeing as an opportunity for the organization, an opportunity for the schools as well, the youth as well, because of it is a momentum created across the spectrum, especially in the education system, the education officials from top to the bottom, and the children, everybody now they see the value of the digital-based education, So it is not going to replace the regular education system model, but it adds value to the existing system. When such kind of situations arise, how we can reach the children at home, and how we can reach the youth, beyond the physical boundaries. and how we can create a digital content, digital assessment system process, and equip them with using digital tools and techniques. So
Right.
this is the way we focus on this as a part of our strategy to mitigate the educational loss and also see the opportunity going forward, how to take it further. I will stop it here. This is the brief, that I thought of sharing with you all.
So, you spoke about the digital way of delivering content, right? I think Mr. Gaurav with Salaam Bombay Foundation has SBF has worked on a model that could actually do this. Mr. Gaurav.
Sure. Thank you, Alaknanda, for inviting, for a very important panel discussion. I think Mr. Abhimanyu pointed out, towards the fact that elementary education has been a priority area for the government for, for a very, very long time. So I think adolescents at Salaam Bombay Foundation, we call it a missing middle. If government thinks about the higher education, elementary education, but what about the adolescents, the secondary school education? So that is where Salaam Bombay Foundation comes in, and we are primarily our model is very urban. Although we are Salaam Bombay Foundation, we are working in 5 urban cities of India: Mumbai, Pune, Kolkata, Bangalore, and Jaipur. And we are dealing with the resource challenge students from the urban slums. So primarily, where do they go to? They go to government schools. So ours is a totally school-driven model. Whatever we are doing or implementing, it is being done at the school level. So, as a part of our program, we are trying to develop a lot of technical skills and life skills, for them. One of the flagship program is called Project Resume. So once they move out of grade 10, what will be on their resume over and above, their academic education. So that's, one of our flagship program. Now, before I really, basically provide a little more details into our COVID response, I really want to touch upon a point, Alaknanda, that in our country, for a very, very long time, we kept the skilling ecosystem separate from the education ecosystem. Okay, so there is a whole MHRD route focusing on education, and there is a whole now Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship route mixed with a khichdi of 17 other ministries, which is cooking the skill development ecosystem. Okay, now the skilling ecosystem is focusing on a dropout youth. Okay, and the education ecosystem is focusing very hard to prevent the dropout. Okay, so 2 great departments of Government of India, and then I remember, when 2009 the skill development mission came up, they said they want to train 50 crore, 500 million, that beautiful, lovely number. Okay, so and then of course, a lot of private players came in, the capacity was increased. So my question is that, if you are to train 50 crore people and the focus is only a dropout youth. So on one side, you have a department which is saying, oh, I celebrate the dropout, from education because he or she becomes my customer, to get into the skill development ecosystem. And you have another ecosystem of the government which is saying, no, dropout to prevent karna hai. So I think that's a dilemma, and that went on for so many years, where I think they were probably, working on 2 different tangents. That's where, at Salaam Bombay Foundation, we really believe that integration of skill and education is very, very important. And I'm glad, New Education Policy 2020 talks about it. But at Salaam Bombay Foundation, since 2014-15, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to take vocational development, skill education right at the school level. The idea is to introduce them, a little early on, so that they can develop a lot of aspiration. Anyone who works in skill development space today with the youth, we realize that one of the most important point that is missing out is aspiration. Youth does not have aspiration for skill development. Okay, but when you do it at the school level, you are developing a lot of aspiration, and in a way, this becomes like a feeder model for a larger skill development program. Okay, so I kind of, basically am responsible for a program called Skills at School at Salaam Bombay Foundation. And as I mentioned to you, the whole idea is to really look at a school, okay, government and government-aided schools, and integrate vocational development, beauty and wellness, mobile repair, home appliance repair, bakery confectionery, there are a range of 14 trades, and now even new age education, so Mr. Reddy talked about adult tinkering lab. Okay, but how many government schools do have a adult tinkering lab? Okay, so how can they be a part of adult tinkering lab? So can we take robotics, AI, machine learning also to government schools? Okay, so that is what we are trying to do as a part of our program. Okay, so having explained to you, what do we do at Salaam Bombay Foundation, and I still remember, the COVID pandemic hit us in March, and one of the first thing that we did, was responded to the food and the hunger, basically need of the migrant, because we're talking Mumbai, and everyone is aware of that. So I think first 15-20 days, and I don't want to talk about it because the focus today is education, so I won't get into the nitty-gritties of it. However, I still remember we have annual reviews at Salaam Bombay Foundation. Okay, and it was 14th April 2020, and we had completed a very successful year, 1920. We had trained 10,000 adolescents in vocational training. So we are extremely bullish. Okay, and in the annual review, we have to kind of share our plans with the board, and board approves. I'm sure this is a format across all the organizations. Okay, and I would say that Gaurav Arora was extremely naive, to be completely aware of the situation, and the version one of the plan, was being extremely optimistic that everything will be fine by July, and schools will open. Okay, and we will be able to go back to square one. Okay, our founder Padmini Somani refused, to look into our plans. Okay, and I think I would say that on April 13, 2020, I think she was the one who really pushed us to visualize a new normal. Okay, she said that your 2020-21 plan, and I'll talk about 22-23 later. Okay, 2020-2021 plan should focus on the fact that schools are not available to you at all, full year. Okay, I mean, basically all of us are shocked. How do you really deliver a vocational training program, which you have delivered for last 6 years in the school premises, okay, in a virtual format? Okay, so that is where the whole thought process come in, and I'm going to share few slides, to tell you the narrative of what we did. So basically, we did not know Zoom, basically, and our field team did not know Zoom, Meet, and all of that. So I think first thing that we did was we kind of groomed us, basically on that. And then the idea was to really see, and of course, I think every panelist has brought the fact that only 30-40% of the students have access to mobile phones, and that's a fact. We cannot change it. Okay, but I think the bottom line is, do you want to live with the reality that 70% do not have a mobile phone, or do you want to live with the reality that let's try to do a model which is possible for the 30% to have a mobile phone? Okay, and if the problem is of the access of the mobile phone, okay, and if you have a model, I'm sure basically if you approach donors, okay, they can help you solve that problem of providing the access. I think, but the first question was, can you deliver a vocational training program that can be delivered to a child who is sitting, adolescent child who is sitting in an urban slum home, 10 by 10 square feet? Okay, is it possible to deliver? Okay, so there were few parts of the equation. So first of all, we said let's pilot with those who have a mobile phone. Okay, let's tell them, basically, can you download Zoom app, Meet app? Are you comfortable doing that? Okay, so this picture is from April 20th, 2020. Okay, where one of our field team member is kind of trying to help students download, basically, and get a part of and they're joining from the mobile phone. The picture on the right hand side is our beautician trainer. Okay, and she's trying to do makeup now. So now that we know that students are comfortable joining in. Okay, so from our home, basically, again in April 2020, there are students who have joined, and she's trying to tell them, about a makeup session. Is that a true vocational training program? No, this is not. Basically, vocation is all about hands-on experience. So at the recipient end, if the child is not able to practice, vocational is all theoretical, and the whole purpose is beaten. Okay, so how do you then solve the problem? Okay, so these are two pictures once again. The girl on the left is Rita Dubey. She was a part of 9th grade, in our program, and when when lockdown happened, her family kind of migrated early on to Varanasi in UP. Okay, so and the other image is of Jyoti Jadhav, from Mumbai, from a school in Malad. Okay, both part of our beautician program. Okay, so of course, since you have to make them practice, you have to provide them material. Okay, so second part of the model was to really make sure that you are able to provide home-based kits in the middle of lockdown. Okay, so that they can practice when the trainer is able to kind of virtually or digitally kind of do it. So they should be able to practice as well. So that was a part 2 of our model. Okay, so replicating not just for beauty and wellness, but also for mobile repair, home appliance repair, bakery, confectionery, robotics, and a lot of other trades. And then, of course, you have students, and these images are showing that how students are now virtually on their phone joining live sessions, okay, seeing their trainer do things, and also they are able to practice, while they're at home. I'm very happy to share that in this model, in 2020-21, we train over 4,000 students across the 5 cities, that I'm talking about. Now, I'm sure many of us will have a question, and a very right question, that, you are catering only to 40% of the students. 60% of them don't have a mobile phone. Okay, so after we piloted this successfully from April to June 2020, okay, we started approaching donors and telling them, basically, we have a model, and the model clearly says that vocational training is possible in the virtual model. Okay, the problem is only of the device. Can you help us address that problem? And I have to say that many of them came forward. The first of them being Rotary Club of Bombay, okay, which agreed to donate 160 tablets to Salaam Bombay Foundation. Okay, so we put a 4G SIM card in the tablet, okay, for kind of enabling internet access on the tablet. Okay, so now this tablet is provided on a rotation basis to the beneficiary. One tablet does 3 to 4 rotations a year. Okay, and this is how children who are not kind of basically able to access are now also able to virtually connect and join the program. After Rotary came in, I think we proposed this to a few other donors, and I have to say Amazon and a lot of other donors also came in. And today at Salaam Bombay Foundation, we have a repository of around 650-700 tablets which we are using on a rotation basis to provide the digital access. All of them have a 4G, basically all of them are internet enabled through 4G connection and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the model, Alaknanda. I wanted to kind of highlight how at Salaam Bombay Foundation we adapted virtually. And I have to say that, in urban areas, situations were very, very difficult. When we talk about cities like Mumbai, Pune, rural, at least, they have a breather space. Now, in a 10 by 10 square feet space, at their homes, you can imagine, 5 or 6 family members confined together. Okay, and if we even look at their mental health, I have to say that although this is a vocational training program, okay, but for that 1 hour, they are joining this program. The kind of positive mental health impact, this is happening on that, is a very, very separate narrative altogether. So I think at Salaam Bombay Foundation, our realization is that the only way we can deal with pandemic, endemic, is adaptability, agility. Okay, either you can kind of continue to think. I think we have waited very long. No one clearly understands this pandemic. I don't think vaccines kind of have done their job well, or I think so that's a longer debate. But point is that kind of basically everyone is still understanding pandemic, and in that process we can't really wait. Okay, so the only way you can deal with the pandemic is to adapt and be agile and come up with models which can be replicated and scale. And that's the Salaam Bombay Foundation model to deal with the pandemic. Thank you, Alaknanda. Alaknanda, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, I have few more points, but I think I can,
right.
As we go into the session, I can.
Right. I wanted to invite Rita to share about, Patang's experience and, how they have coped with COVID-19. Rita?
Thank you for the invitation, Alaknanda. And this is a very, very significant theme that we are talking about. As our colleague said, no, the missing middle. We are talking about adolescence. I think similar struggles like others we faced, but we are working primarily in a rural setting, and I'm actually wearing sweater and shawl, so people must be thinking that I'm from Odisha. I'm talking right now from Odisha, but I'm based out of Delhi. But I will be sharing Patang's experience of working with adolescents in a government setting. We in partnership with Quest Alliance and IBM and Government of Odisha, and there is another partner called Restless Development. We are running STEM for Girls program, and that program was just started. It was just in the process of unfolding itself, and everybody was excited about it. And when the COVID hit us, but as all my previous panelists said, we also adapted to the context very soon. We went to a digital mode, and because we had so many partners, because the STEM for Girls program is being run around in 10 states in India. So there was quite a lot of people involved in terms of technology, in terms of resources, in terms of, bringing the realities. So within a month only, we got into digital platforms like, we started with IVRS messages. So the content was then translated and transformed into small bytes in IVRS. We also used, I think a lot of other things we did, but I'll not repeat what my colleagues have already said. But I think one thing we really focused is to how to help the system to deliver. And there we trained a lot of teachers on how to use social media platforms, because they didn't know how to even form a WhatsApp group. They even didn't know how to make a PowerPoint presentation, how to make a video. I think Odisha government did come back to us and ask for teachers training. So we focused a lot of energy in conducting teachers trainings for teachers across the state through online mode in batches. And that really enabled us to, bridge the gap between the teachers and us, and the teachers and the students. So that is, I think, one good thing we could do. And this, because our program was primarily a facilitator driven, so we also focused a lot on using two platforms that Quest Alliance provided. One is called Master Coach Course, another is a Trainer's Tribe. So these are two platforms which are provided to hone the facilitation skills of facilitators and teachers. So there was the teachers training component, because we knew, more the better. So have to reach more people, and we did that. At that time, actually, I was heading an organization in Gurgaon called Tap India Foundation. And there we realized, when we talk about people, small things, like many times children do not have, or parents do not have even money to recharge their mobile. So a lot of effort was actually gone into recharging thousands of mobile phones. So in our organization, I think I remember 4,000, mobile phones were recharged. All of us were just recharging mobile so that we can talk to people who are in distress. So these are smaller things that all of us, we innovated. And I think my colleague, Dr. Reddy, he talked about the hybrid model, and we're still practicing that very much in Patang. In that, what we have done, in rural setting and even in towns, we are inviting a group of girls to come together, or a group of children come together, and we are trying to transact the curriculum as much as we can. So that's been happening. And I think one thing very special we must talk about when we talk about adolescence is that the mental health. And children, especially in the second wave, children were really literally in distress. So what Patang did is, in partnership with TIS, we got our facilitators trained in how to talk to adolescents about these issues, because there was so much turmoil that facilitators were going through. So within the organization, we had 2 batches of training on mental health of our members. We did, and after that, we also trained our facilitators how to talk to children. And in the TIS partnership, we learned about how to use stories, how to use drawings, how to really communicate to children who have lost one parent, or somebody very near and dear ones. Even a lot of people have lost their elder brother, sister. So I think a lot of those happen. So I think mental well-being is something we did invest at that time. And for a month, we actually took that as a priority, just to have conversation with the children and forget about the so-called education. One more thing I would like to emphasize that online classes is something which is happening, but we are definitely trying to reach out as much as through the community interaction. That's my experience from Patang.
So one of the second things that I wanted to talk about was the new education policy that has come in, because in the context of adolescent education, this has been a major step, even for many other sectors, but for adolescent education, because skilling for the first time has been seen as integrated with education, with secondary schooling, and there are a lot of many pathways which are envisaged to help students step out from schooling into skilling, and giving some kind of a prestige to skilling. I wanted to hear your thoughts on how do you think this would shape up? How would this, in fact, work out for urban youth, for marginalized, children from rural areas? Well, how do you think this would go? Can Mr. Gaurav start?
Okay. Sure. Thank you, Alaknanda. I will take this, from the context of urban, because that's what our forte is. So, let me begin with highlighting, and you have brought in a very, very important, point to this discussion, because unfortunately, NEP was a very, very positive step by the government of India. And I think 30, 40 years, we have collectively waited for a new education policy. And unfortunately, the very year it was supposed to be implemented, the pandemic hit us. Okay, so now conceptually, NEP has some really amazing features. For example, NEP is focusing to integrate vocational education into educational institutions, and it aims to provide access of vocational education to at least 50% of all learners by 2025. So very, very positive step. Okay, NEP aims to alter the misperception around vocational education as a less desirable option by fully integrating it with the mainstream education rather than developing it separately. So another, I think, very, very positive step. I think another area where NEP scores majorly is the fact that it empowers, students by offering them the flexibility to explore multiple vocational programs and the freedom to change streams, right? So there's a lot of upward mobility, like you can do it along with education. So I think conceptually, NEP 2020 is a very, very great step, basically for integrating skills in education. Having said that, I think there are some real challenges, Alaknanda, that I want to bring on the table. Okay, so one of the way, NEP is envisaging this whole integration of skills in education, it is expecting the educational institutes to robustly bolster their setups, requiring them to collaborate with bodies like ITIs, polytechnics, local industries, sector skill councils, induct external experts in their in different vocations, conduct assessments of all vocational education courses, develop equipments and laboratories, etc. Okay, so I think my question is that in a country like ours, where there is a real paucity of basic infrastructure in many educational institutions, who is going to bring in these kind of investments and at this level? And you're putting a large amount of owners of skilling exclusively on the education institutions alone. So I think this, in my opinion, could be a big deterrent. Because imagine now, we are really talking about resource challenge. I think, we are not doing this discussion in context to a IB or a IG or a ICSE, private school. We are doing this, basically in the context of a resource challenge adolescent who is going to a government or a government-aided school. Now, I think the expectation from a government or a government-aided school to be able to do these kind of things, to implement an NEP program, in my opinion, are kind of, totally in a very, very tangential mode. Okay, so I think probably the NEP document or the framework has not really laid down the support system, that will be made available. I mean, putting all the responsibilities and onus on our education institution might not really solve the whole purpose in a true fashion. So that is one point. And I think second point, Alexander, that I want to bring is, the whole fact about, and I think, this whole, the loss in learning, outcomes and, etc. Even, for a very, very large time, say for example, NEP, again, framework for skill development is talking about, that education institutes should work with institutes like Pandit Sundarlal Sharma Central Institute of Vocational Education, who has pioneered the RMSA, the Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, vocationalization of secondary education. And if you look at the kind of skills that is being imparted as a part of those programs, they're talking about a skill called multi-skilling, jisme, you're teaching gardening, nursery, okay, and so on and so forth. So, and I'm glad, Mr. Reddy brought that point about the future of work. Okay, so I have full respect and regard, for vocations like gardening and nurturing, and gardening and nursery. But I think one should also think about, are these skills, the skills that will prepare the adolescent and the youth for the future. So I think one has to really also think about, what are the skills of the future, and accordingly. So I think my only fear is that somewhere, documents are made, and these are 5-6 year old documents. The word has changed. Pandemic has really in the new normal, the whole job sector has changed. A lot of jobs have become redundant, right? So if we continue to skill our youth and adolescents on jobs that have become redundant, okay, I'm sorry to say that the skilling will not convert into a sustainable livelihood opportunity. So I think then NEP also now, because of what has happened in these 2 years, NEP also need to go back a little bit on the drawing board and see, what is the future of work, what is the new normal, what are the new jobs, okay, and accordingly bring in skills that can prepare adolescents and youth for the future of work.
रीता जी, आप जोड़ना चाहेंगे?
हाँ, मैं इसमें कुछ जोड़ना चाहूंगी। आई थिंक जो गौरव जी ने बताया, उन्होंने इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और पाथवेज की बात की, बट आई हैव सर्टेन फंडामेंटल कंसर्न्स अराउंड ब्रिंगिंग वोकेशनल स्किलिंग एट द वेरी वेरी बिगिनिंग लेवल। फिर 6th स्टैंडर्ड से हम बोल रहे हैं शुरू करने वाले हैं ना, 6th 7th 8th को, तो वहाँ पे हम किस तरह की वोकेशनल स्किल की हम बात कर रहे हैं, वो इशू है। बट उससे पहले ना, मैं अलकनंदा, विथ योर परमिशन, जस्ट वांट टू हाईलाइट 2 इम्पोर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट्स, बिकॉज जिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हम एडोलेसेंट्स की बात कर रहे हैं, वन इज दिस ACD जो हम बात कर रहे हैं ना, सोशली इकोनॉमिकली डिसएडवांटेज ग्रुप्स करके एक है, जो हमें NEP 2020 में जिसके बारे में बातचीत हुई है। और एक ड्रॉप आउट, जब हम एडोलेसेंट की बात कर रहे हैं, हम एडोलेसेंट को होमोजेनाइज नहीं कर सकते हैं, एंड जब हम ACDs की बात कर रहे हैं, हम पहले जब हमारा फर्स्ट ड्राफ्ट आया था, जिसमें हम लोगों ने काफी लोगों ने मेहनत करके क्रिटिक किया था और उसमें काफी सारी बात की थी, वहां पे उन्होंने ट्रांसजेंडर अलग रखा था, जेंडर अलग रखा था, डिफरेंट ग्रुप्स को अलग रखा था। बट जो सेकेंड ड्राफ्ट हमको मिला, उसमें सारे जो कैटेगरीज को, सोशल कैटेगरीज को उन्होंने एक कैटेगरी में डाल दिया। मैं इसको अपनी एक उदाहरण, हमारे जो स्टेम प्रोग्राम चल रहा है, मैं उसी संदर्भ में बोलना चाहूंगी, जो हम उड़ीसा में करीब अभी मेरे ख्याल से 16-17 डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हम चला रहे हैं। We have come across some children who we think, and also there is a silent understanding, the children also think they are transgenders, है ना, और उनके लिए स्कॉलरशिप भी है। पर ये बात करने के लिए एक स्कूल क्या तैयार है, हम क्या तैयार हैं? हम एक NGO होने के नाते भी हमारे पास वो वोकेबुलरी है क्या, कि हमें पता है कि स्कूल और हमारी लीगल फ्रेमवर्क है कि हम ट्रांसजेंडर बोल सकते हैं एक बच्चे को, उसके लिए स्कॉलरशिप भी है कि वो ड्रॉप आउट ना हो जाए। पर ये पूरी प्रोसेस करने के लिए जो सेंसिटिविटी पेरेंट्स में चाहिए, जो संस्थाओं में चाहिए, जो टीचर में चाहिए, उसके लिए एक अलग प्रक्रिया होना पड़ेगा। तो जब हम ये सोशली इकोनॉमिकली डिसएडवांटेज ग्रुप की बात करके सबको होमोजेनाइज कर देते हैं, so it can really bring a little bit more problem for me. Another example I would like to give about the dropout. You know, जब हम न्यू नॉर्मल की बात कर रहे हैं, वो उसमें मैं थोड़ी सी अनकंफर्टेबल इसीलिए हूँ, जो पहले जो इसको हम नॉर्मल बोल रहे हैं कोविड से पहले, तब हमारे पास मिलियंस ऑफ चिल्ड्रन हु वे ड्रॉप्ड आउट, है ना, हु वे नॉट देयर. तो अगर हम उसको नॉर्मल मान लेंगे तो बहुत ही हम भयानक एक परिस्थिति की ओर जा रहे हैं. तो इतने सारे जब हम ड्रॉप आउट चिल्ड्रन की बात कर रहे हैं, एंड नाउ अक्रॉस द बोर्ड पीपल आर सेइंग ड्यू टू कोविड देयर विल बी 20% drop out will be there, and school completion नहीं होगा, and we know certain communities and girls will be affected by this. So उस context में जब हम स्किलिंग बात कर रहे हैं, तो मेरा जो सबसे बड़ा सवाल ये है कि who will be then nudged into this kind of vocational training? We know traditionally हमारे जो एक normative practice है, we have always outcast these skills of gardening, craft and all. उनको वो दर्जा नहीं मिला है हमारी समाज में because of historical, political and social reasons. We have a very, very caste and vocation based society. Let's face it, हम पर अब हम जब इस तरह की स्किल्स की बात कर रहे हैं, चाहे गार्डनिंग की, मैं चाहती हूँ ये सब बच्चे सीखें, पर क्या हमारी नजरिया वो बदलने वाला है? जस्ट बच्चों को अगर हम मैनुअल लेबर की अगर जैसे 2 क्लास पढ़ा देते हैं, और क्या हमारे पास वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है जिसके बारे में अभी गौरव जी ने जिक्र किया है? हम पढ़ाई, लुक एट द स्कूल क्लोजर, विदिन इन ओडिशा आई कैन टेल यू, इन नवंबर 2020 8,000 प्राइमरी स्कूल्स गॉट क्लोज्ड. सो हम जब इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की बात कर रहे हैं, हम फंडामेंटल स्किल्स, बेसिक एजुकेशन नहीं दे पा रहे हैं, तो ये कहाँ पे हमारी प्रायोरिटी में आएगा? एंड सेकेंड थिंग, आई रियली फील इट विल बी डबली डिसएडवांटेज फॉर girls who are already not like STEM for girls that we have been doing, actually talking about linking them to career, at the same time addressing a very, very big gendered kind of a education, which is not actually wanting girls to join certain kind of courses. तो हमारे पास already courses are so gendered. उस पर्सपेक्टिव में मुझे लग रहा है कि the girls will be again doubly disadvantaged. They will be pushed into crafts. They will be pushed into आपकी जो क्या बोलते हैं हम लोग, home science courses. They will be into gardening and all those kind of so-called softer things. So and another thing is that I just feel it can stratify the education system further, and it will be efficiency route for dropout that many people are saying, because they may not find it interesting, and if they do not get good scores in the class, they will be pushed to take these courses. So it will be a legally and in a formal way of exit that will be created. So maybe we have to really look at the Indian context where we are talking about, and is it the right time to introduce this kind of a skilling program? And we have to have this debate within the civil society to build our understanding. Maybe some of us, we are not well informed, like people like what my colleagues are doing in other parts of the country. But coming from a rural setting and where we have been working, we really feel the aspirations and the kind of life mobility that the children are thinking about might get a backstay. Thank you.
Sir, Dr. Reddy.
Yeah, so I would like to add something here, especially from the context of the national education policy, which actually there is a structural change. It suggests that one is that the school system has to be structured into the 4 levels and kind of thing. And the top levels of the 3rd and 4th, that is the 6th to 8th and 9th to 12th. So there are 2 layers, I can say that. So where the adolescent age group fall into, because of the 11 years and above age group, they come into these 2 levels. And here also there should be a lot of things need to be done at the state level, where a state education departments has to rearrange the school system. There is one thing. Second thing is that introduce the vocational streams in the schools as per the new education policy. and also it promotes that the vocational skills of various nature. One is the traditional vocational skills, and also the future skills, and introduction of the technology as well. So the NEP talks about all these things. At the same time, as I mentioned in my previous presentation and talking about, the COVID forced us to think to digital solutions and kind of thing to reach the people on the ground at home. So keeping those two things in line, both what NAP demands and also what COVID forces us to do things, there is a synergy between these two things, and as a way forward, especially targeting the adolescents. If you see that because of the COVID, two segments, if this is education system, they are the high-end private schools, which are the highly paid, fee-paid schools. Second thing is about the schools run by central government like Kendriya Vidyalaya, Navodaya Vidyalayas. The third thing about the budget schools we're talking about, which are mostly operated in semi-urban centers, in slum areas and kind of thing, and also in rural areas. So the budget schools run by some local entrepreneurs and education kind of thing, and the government schools. So out of these four layers, the last two segments, the government schools and the budget schools, which are suffered a lot because of the COVID situation. So where the youth, especially talking about because of the migration of the people because of the COVID lockdowns and all those things, the people left the places where they are residing because of various economic opportunities. They're residing there, and the children go to the education system. So they missed the bus of the education, and also they missed the vocational skills opportunities and kind of thing. Now, when we say the way forward kind of thing, how we can see that as a part of education system in line with the new education policy, and at this budget schools and also government school system, the vocational skills, how can you promote and propagate? So using the both technology based and non-technology based kind of thing. So which that can be add value to the people with whom we are working, and we can able to address the needs of the youth. Just I would like to share a couple of minutes what efforts we are currently we are doing on the ground. You'll get an idea about. I hope you can see the screen, Alkananda. Are you able to see the screen? Hello?
Yes, it's visible. Mr. Reddy, it's visible.
We can see it.
Thank you. Yeah. So when you see this, these are the efforts we are making there. When you doing the digital kind of thing, the schools, especially when we talk about the budget schools or government schools, so how can we introduce technology into the education system as per the new education policy? That is one thing. The classrooms are being transformed with the low-cost additional classrooms we are talking about. Then there is a mobile digital buses. Already I mentioned to you the 11 mobile digital buses, which are taking care of the educational needs of the children and the youth in the communities at their doorstep. And also we talk about this is the hybrid model of in the same mobile digital buses, the government school teachers, how they can reach the children through WhatsApp groups live, that is one thing. And also they record the content, what they are creating, that is as per the future use. And also children who are sitting in the bus, they also can attend the class simultaneously. This is the three things are happening simultaneously: direct telecast at the home level, the children in the bus, they are receiving the lessons, and also the same lesson recorded for the future use purpose. We are training the teachers on this front. Then also and talking about the online engagement. This online engagement beyond physical boundaries from different parts of the country, we are able to reach the children by way of connecting them virtually. And also the adult tinkering InnoSTEAM labs we are talking about, where the future skills promotion among the children, how to use the Arduino, Raspberry Pi, the coding, app development, design thinking process, and develop prototypes, so the things are there. And this is the Atal Community Innovation Center. This is again initiated by the Niti Aayog that we are supporting across the country in 11 locations, where the young fellows, the people who are there in the communities, how they can get opportunity of working with these technologies, associating with the Atal Community Innovation Centers. And there's one thing we are also doing there. And the coding for girls, especially from class 6 to class 9 children, so equipping them out on the C++ language or Minecraft or block programming, those things we are training the children in the school. There are things are happening, and also we see that other vocational skills what we are doing that aligning with the skilling as the NEP talks about. The basic electrician training program and 13 locations where the youth are both, mostly it is the men oriented course, but we are trying to encourage the women, the girls also to participate in this the program with the hands-on training program, 3 months long course, and putting them in the employment stream. And then is the basic computer training program, what we do, equipping the people with the digital skills, which is required for not just for the employment point of view, but also it's a skill for them, employability and the confidence levels, and use the digital platform for various purposes. So we do there, and also the spoken English program, which is it builds their confidence, especially people coming from the rural background, semi-urban background, and Telugu medium, vernacular medium schools. So people are coming from there. For them, this is another thing which is adding value to the students. And the digital literacy program in the community level, at the community level where we target the youth, especially the girls and the boys, who are different from different sections, and we try to teach them about the basic computer skills and using the social media platform, paying the online payments methods, and using it for the various the day-to-day requirements. So again, this is the one thing we do it, the passion designing for the adolescent girls there in Chennai. There is a tsunami rehabilitation location there in Chennai location, where we train the passion designing and as well as the beauty and wellness for the girls and the young mothers there in that locality. So this is something what we have been doing, aligning with the national education policy, and also talking about the vocational skills for the youth, both in the school system and also in the community level. I stop it here.
Thank you. So we have a lot of questions, but I'll give the time to our audience. We have 2 questions in the audience. So the first question is, in emphasizing the linkages between education and work and skilling, are we getting into a trap where instead of developing holistic, instead of focusing on holistic education, we are trying to create, this human resource for companies? So I'll leave it open to the panelists.
Yeah,
Mr. Arora, yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. So I think, I don't know what is the name of the, person who has answered question, very, very relevant question, but I think maybe, I don't know, why it came up as either or. I don't think any of the panelists was trying to say that it is vocational development, or skill development at the cost of social and emotional learning. I don't think any one of us today will agree to that fact, because I think Dr. Mishra talked about mental health. I also emphasize on the mental health aspect of it. And let me begin by saying that one of the very first thing that we did as Salaam Bombay Foundation, in the beginning of the pandemic, we did not offer a online vocational training program. Okay, we knew that our adolescents are confined in 10 by 10 square feet homes in urban slums, with 7-8 people in their homes. Okay, so what we started doing was we came up with a call with a concept called Happy Minds call. Okay, and the very idea of a call was that it is an agenda-less call. Okay, so our field team will call an adolescent and will say, अरे आज एक काम करते हैं, कच्चा पापड़ पक्का पापड़ खेलते हैं. ओके, तो मैं बोलूंगा कच्चा पापड़ पक्का पापड़, आप बताओ कितनी बार आप बोलोगे. Okay, and then on the phone they will say, can you bring in your mother? Okay, can we play this game? Okay, so I think everyone in civil society is very, very mindful of the fact that social and emotional learning, actually contributes a lot to other elements of development. So I would like to re-emphasize once again that as civil society, it is never an either or, and I think it is a genuine attempt of civil society to first look into the social and emotional well-being, of our beneficiaries, and followed by, and of course, if we say, abhi to social emotional learning ho gaya, okay, or social and emotional learning hi karenge, we will think only about social and emotional well-being. Okay, but I think then the question is that enough? Will that social and emotional learning only be able to provide bread and butter? Because ultimately we are also working towards, I think we have moved away from the notion of giving someone a fish to eat, to teaching someone how to fish, right? So for, I think the whole development language has changed. So that is the reason, after you have done your social and emotional development, I think you definitely need to bring in, if you want to call it the capitalist agenda, most welcome. I think, basically people can have perception. We can go on and on for a debate, but I think the whole purpose is, I don't think it is capitalist or socialist. The idea is to really help adolescent or a youth, stand on their own feet, kind of, get into a sustainable career option. And that is the reason, these programs comes in after you have done your social and emotional learning and development.
Alaknanda, I want to add a few things. Am I? Okay. I think I'll not get trapped into that question, into the capitalist debate. But I do think, when India became independent, we really had a certain kind of a vision. We wanted Indians because we were actually getting out of colony, and, colonialization had affected our everyday life. So there was a different agenda. Certainly in after 90s, definitely we are talking about a new liberal economy. So there is definitely a priority towards fitting people into the kind of economy, political economy have. So, but rather getting digress, I think the most important thing that we all are facing today is that what is the 21st century skill that I would like to talk about is that we are now living in a very, very uncertain and unpredictable world. We do not know what is going to happen to us next day. You speak to people today and tomorrow you get a message that the person is no more. And this is something and something is shut down, lockdown, online, offline. So this uncertainty has taught us that we have to really prepare our adolescents to, while think for a larger, having a larger picture, bigger vision, but also how to deal with this uncertainty, how to create solidarity groups and networks. I think those kind of skills we really need to impact. And another is that the penetration of social media and the fake news and the overexposure to a lot of things, and even the information overload. How to really negotiate and navigate through that. I think these are the two skills I would like to bring in our curriculums, in our work while going ahead with adolescents. And of course, we are a democratic society, and every stakeholder will have their agenda in the education, and we all have to contest and negotiate and find our path. Thank you.
Alaknanda, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, there is a question addressed to me. How the challenges being faced with dealing with the teachers.
Yeah.
So this is something I would like to state that, even before pandemic, if you want to introduce digital platforms, technologies in the classroom situation, and the teachers who are in the age group between below the age group of 35 years, they are the more proactive in terms of the using the technology and its application for the teacher learning process. When it comes to the 35 to 50 years of age group teachers, they are somewhere in between, with a little bit of push, little bit of hand holding and support. They also try to make use of this platform. And the teachers above 50, there is some kind of feeling that it is not for us, and we have been in system, we're doing their own methods based kind of thing. And that is the kind of attitude we can see that. So this kind of the behavior of the system, it was there before pandemic. Now, the post-pandemic, during the pandemic, it is not just only the teachers, but also the entire structure of the education system from top to the bottom. They started thinking of how we can leverage the technology for the teaching learning process. So that is one sea change it brought in. The positive change, I want to say that positive change COVID brought in. But I am not saying that the 100% teachers now ready to use the technology and kind of thing. But at least the number has increased. But here, when talking about technology usage point of view, we have to see the 3-4 things. One is that the ability of the teachers, the technology ability, how they can, without fear, with the confidence, with comfort, they can use the technology. That is one thing. The ability, that is one thing we have to equip them with the training. Second thing is that how to create the local content by engaging the teachers. So what are the contents available? It's more English and Hindi, but not in any vernacular languages kind of thing. So unless until the teachers can be equipped with them, the skills of the content and assessment is other thing. Online collaboration, how they can do it kind of thing. So all these parameters, one has to look at it and train the teachers. There's a positivity is there, but still long way to go. Maybe down the line, next 5 years of time, we can see that sea change in the entire system. That is what we're anticipating.
Right. I also want to ask Mr. Abhimanyu, because his organization has been dealing with children who are the youngest of all of our panelists, that when we are trying to support teachers into getting used to technology, getting used to a new way of delivering content, what were the challenges that were faced?
Sorry, yeah, hi. I think the state of digitalization of rural education in the areas that we work in Rajasthan is minimal. And I think India as a whole is far behind countries in Southeast Asia. If you talk of the neighborhood and others in terms of internet penetration, availability of stable electricity and connectivity as a whole. So notwithstanding that, I think our philosophy has been, as several speakers have mentioned, that you are better off with technology than without it. And it is obviously true that the kinds of experiments that we are doing in urban areas that we have heard from SRF and Salaam, Bombay, a number of them are just not possible in rural areas for marginalized populations, purely because the availability of the digital devices and the means to use them are so limited. But nevertheless, we have tried to embrace technology, digital technology, in day-to-day learning as well as in life. So I think there is no looking back on that. And we have amongst us a young gentleman called Jaish Mohammed, who is able to train people with no background at all in digital learning. In 3 days, I think they can develop all the basic skills of how to use computers and how to send emails in English and Ruta-Puta English, Tabartod in English, spoken English. So it's a question of exposure, availability, accessibility, affordability. But above all, it's a question of equity. See, we had a dialogue with our major donors, I won't name them, whether tablets should be available for girls from marginalized sections of society because they may misuse them. And that's of course a fear across the board. But in countering suggestions like that, one has to build arguments saying that no one should be denied an opportunity. And if the rich in urban areas have these devices at their disposal, several of them in one home, and they use it and misuse it, then why deny the liberty to the poorest and the girls to use these? And we have found that girls have used them very responsibly and very much in a peer learning situation. Boys, we found, tend to group around and exclude girls. But one of the learning centers, we have now made a simple change. It used to have just one coordinator who would manage the children, manage the external relations, manage the relations with the teachers and schools. But we have made it mandatory that there should be two and one of them must be a woman. And the argument there, you see, in Rajasthan, women's literacy is so low, they say that we can't find educated girls to become coordinators in our learning centers. None of them have passed class 10. So then you lower the education qualification and improve the training facilities. But the entrance of women into the learning centers has meant that better access for girls to the digital devices which were there. And that means a lot of confidence building. And one of our, it seems revolutionary, but they were not allowed to take digital devices home, which is a normal thing in every urban area in India. Now you own a digital device, you take it home. Even if you don't own it, you are trusted to take it home. But in rural Rajasthan and generally in the atmosphere, girls were not allowed to take them home. Just one single small step he took, that girls will be allowed to take in rotation digital devices to their home. And then that exposes her parents, grandparents, the larger family to the potential of digital devices for learning. And as I said, for entertainment. Everybody wants to see movies, sing songs and dance. So what's wrong with that? So it is a lot of it is in the mind, and we have found that sheer availability physically is one step, and that is, we have a long, long way to go. I think 8% of rural women, rural girls have access to digital. And the main critique has been that we are talking about online learning, which is available to very, very few people. But the point is that we have to think of the other half as well. We have to create communal spaces where there is more than one computer, where there are a large number of digital devices which are open 24/7, I would say, to enable people to come and use these digital devices with confidence. And even if a digital device is broken and it needs repair, we have never followed the philosophy of cost recovery. Anybody can drop it, anybody can damage it. So one takes the step of having the confidence to assume that it has been damaged because of some valid reason and replace it. So a lot of it is in the mind, and we are promoting digital literacy wherever we can. But I think in this whole discussion, what we are missing is that where there is no digital device available, no electricity, no voltage, no whatever, what do you do with the large majority of these people who have lost touch with education and are not accessing digital devices? We have not discussed as a strategy, how do we approach their learning with the schools not likely to open as they used to in the future. So I think the focus here will have to be on how to reach the marginalized and the poorest, who till today have no access and tomorrow also have little chances of access to digital devices. That is the major challenge. Earlier, if you went to an American university or any good university, even now in India, you have computer labs, which are free and open for 24 hours. I've used them myself in the US. We don't have those because of various reasons. So one of the things, Alaknanda, our people are doing is to going into schools, opening the labs and using them, and then accessing, made them available to school teachers and train them as well. So Rajasthan government has belatedly, I think sometime later, saying that we will appoint thousands of computer teachers. That, you're far behind the game. Each and every teacher and each and every student should be entitled to a digital device now. One teacher who knows computer in a school is not going to do it. You cannot actually call yourself a teacher today without knowing how to use digital devices. So there's a huge challenge there. And I think one of the speakers said it indirectly, that one of the things I found was that, it's very difficult to bring older teachers like myself and others to use new devices. But what this online learning did was that thousands of teachers had perforce got to learn how to use a computer. they had to have access to smartphones and digital devices. And so I think in a very rapid kind of way in the last 2 years, thousands of teachers were able to use these devices for online learning, which in normal circumstances may have taken a much longer time.
Thank you, sir. So we do understand, because that's the key reason. The challenges in the rural areas are very different from the challenges in urban areas. In both cases, teachers have had to adapt. Mr. Arora, yes?
Yeah, I think Mr. Abhimanyu has brought in a very, very important point, and I completely kind of agree with him that few things which are kind of basically working well in the urban context might not really work in the rural context, and I think his point is valid that maybe in this discussion we have not spoken about the fact जहाँ पर device नहीं है वहाँ क्या करना है. So what basically since Alaknanda, you had shared it as a point. And I know that 2 or 3 stories that I'm going to share are not stories of Salaam Bombay Foundation. I think, but early on we developed a lot. We drew a lot of inspiration from those stories, and I'm just kind of flashing them back, as a memory to all of us. And it is beyond Salaam Bombay Foundation and beyond all of our organizations, right? So this is a Jharkhand school, right? I mean, the principal who has actually taken a lead to paint the wall to blackboard, so that social distancing can happen, and not just in the school premises. If you see the hutments are there, and he has kind of painted the hutment, and this is how. So these are early days of pandemic, and where you don't have the kind of access to the digital divide, but I think people are using different ways and means to kind of propagate that. The second picture, I thought again, Bhim Mato teaches students through loudspeakers in Junori village, in Bokaro. And again, the point is that, the teacher is in the school, okay, and there is a PA system and loudspeakers are available throughout the villages. Okay, so teacher is broadcasting, basically his learnings and teachings, and, basically it is being provided, although it is only one way. There is kind of, the student is not able to ask a question, but at least, it is able to solve half part of the problem. And I think third story that I found was, from Pune, where the temple premises, in temple loudspeakers are being used to do all of that. So, I think the idea is definitely, I think the purpose is to not limit the debate to say that digital device is, is the only solution. I think different people have used different approaches, to solve the problem. I think the larger challenge though is, whether we have been able to replicate and scale these wonderful stories. Okay, so what happened in Dhamtari or what happened in Bokaro, were we able to, as a country, think that this is a very good model, and we can take it to thousands of villages in our country where digital devices are not possible, where there is no electricity, where there is no network. So I think as a country, and there has to be a thought leadership which has to really think about. So if this model has worked in one village, what it will take to really make sure this model works elsewhere as well. So I think that is also the need of the hour, where we need to really prioritize. I think we are talking more about problem, and as a country we need to really also focus on a solution which is scalable and replicable in a very, very cost effective way.
Thank you. I'm noticing that we are all approaching this from very different contexts, and a lot of our audience also is spread out across India and looks at these challenges from very different perspectives. So when we talk about rural children and the challenges that they face, the main question is of access. And when we're talking of urban areas, the question comes to aspirations and making skills, aspirational enough. I really feel that there is a way ahead where the new education policy might, if implemented right, maybe some states and some places would be able to bring forth some models that work, in particular context. Maybe there isn't going to be one uniform model that works across India or even across all urban areas or all rural areas. But, different models that will emerge. And it has been really enlightening to listen to, the different models that, all of you have tried. Because, like I said, we need different models to come up and see which ones are more replicable, which ones can be taken up ahead. I really like this idea of, communal learning spaces that is somehow coming up in different ways in all of your, conversations. That we need spaces where we need open spaces where, digital devices are available. We need also spaces which are more attractive and open to everyone. Maybe not just under schools, but like Abhimanyu said, there are open computer labs. Maybe we'll come to a time where such innovative approaches can be taken on further ahead. And the future of work is changing very fast. We cannot get into debate of whether it's capitalist or not, because right now many of our children are asking just for education, just for support in growing up and looking at this new future of work in a stronger way. They have to face challenges that we haven't imagined yet. So I think we need very different stories, different approaches that have worked. And it's been really enlightening listening to all of your, program ideas that have worked and that have brought education to our young children. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for giving your time and sharing so much about your work. I thank all the panelists for joining us here today. And I especially thank our audience who have stayed with us. If at all there are any of the panelists want to say something.
I just want to emphasize what you said about creating communal spaces. I just think a little bit of decentralization required there, because COVID is not affecting all the places equally. And so we can have a rural strategy, we have an urban strategy, we can have localized strategies, we can empower the district education officers. Like today I read in Odia newspaper, it came that the director had a review meeting and spoken to all the DOs in the state. But if the DOs and collectors can see if there is not, there are no large number of cases, they should take the call whether to really shut down the schools or not. So having this, very top-down approach to address COVID is not working, especially in the rural context. So my urge will be, of course, in the beginning, none of us had any idea, but I have been hearing Professor Govinda from the day one, he has been saying why the rural schools are closed. So I think we really need to listen to some of these very, very, intelligent people who have served this country forever now, and listen to their valuable guidance and mentoring, and really urge that there should be more investment on public education, because the way a lot of legislations have happened in the last, during the COVID period, where the civil society has not been engaged, has definitely not served the purpose of, realizing the vision of NEP 2020. So more decentralization, more participation of civil society, and investment in public education for me is the way forward. Thank you. Thank you everyone for the opportunity.
Right.
Thank you, Rita.
Alexandra, I would also, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Gaurav.
Yeah. So I think my fear is that, now that kind of, we are going back to the regular kind of, times. And I heard today that in Maharashtra, schools are now kind of, scheduled to open from 24th of kind of, basically this month. Okay, so I think schools will open up. And I think one of the big agenda that will come up is the learning loss. And, everyone is getting a little worried about it. Like 2 years of schooling have been missed. and there has been definitely a learning loss. No one can deny that. And I just want to draw one thing, basically alpha, beta, gamma, mathematical induction, differentiation, integration, calculus, trigonometry. Okay, I kind of, basically, I'm an engineer, went to a good engineering college. I have never ever in my life, applied, and none of my, friends have ever applied all these principles in their life. Okay, so when we say learning loss for adolescents, I think we should not be into that stage. I think it is a good time to really revamp and rethink that, what we are considering the learning loss. वो trigonometry नहीं पढ़ा या differentiation नहीं पढ़ा, but उसका use future of work में होने वाला है क्या? So I think it is also a great time and a great opportunity for us to relook at our curricula and actually think, कि हम तो सोच रहे हैं वो learning loss है, but in reality, it is a gain कि वो पढ़ा ही नहीं, क्योंकि उसका application वैसे भी work में नहीं होने वाला है.
Right.
Okay, so rather use that time to think of things that will prepare an adolescent and a youth for the future, and really don't get very very worried about the fact that learning loss हुआ है, and a kind of little rethinking into how you can revamp and kind of introduce those components which will make the youth and adolescent more future ready. So that's my only bit that I want to contribute towards that. Thank you.
Thank you. I thank all my speakers. I think very valuable points have come up. I'm going to walk away with these two, important ideas, that when we are talking about learning loss, maybe we could be focusing more on the socio-emotional skills, 21st century skills that we say that, our youth are going to need to, handle the challenges of the future of work. Like when they're growing up, they are going to need those skills, and so we should not be bothered more about learning loss in the more mainstream manner. And the second thing is about the communal learning spaces, especially digitally equipped communal spaces. So I think these two are great ideas that many of our friends from the civil society sector can take away from, and maybe try it out in their own locales appropriately. I thank all the panelists for joining us today, and I thank the audience for giving us time and joining us here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much to the audience. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.